Hello, everybody. Welcome to
Hi.
our Flash Fiction Sunday, presented by talesfromtheline.com. I'm your host, Torsten, and I'm with my lovely wife, Ilka, today, because our English colleagues have some technical issues right now. So hopefully they will join us in a little bit. Ilka, how was your week?
My week was very good. I had a nice time, lovely weather, and I'm back to full health and having fun. Yesterday we had a celebration day, and it's always good to celebrate. So I'm very excited to see where the stories are leading us today.
Very good. Are you in a story mood?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's very good. Are you already feeling the first influx of fall?
A little bit, yes. I feel like there is something hiding in the bushes and needs to be explored.
Ooh. So we will have some bloody stories again today?
Might be. Maybe I do something romantic today.
Maybe.
You know, I'm a huge romantic person.
Okay, so that's just the right cue for Daniel when we talk about sexy times. Daniel, how are you?
Sexy times. So that's always a great introduction. I'm quite well. I'm just maneuvering myself. I have a new chair.
Ooh, nice one. Looks like you can sleep in that thing.
It's going to make the world of difference, I think, because yeah, that's the theory.
Very good.
Comfy chair.
Where is David? He should
Yes.
be here. I've just sent him cheers. Yes.
He is joining now.
There he is.
Hello, David.
Yes, I found it after receiving the wrong link.
Ooh. I know. I sent last week's link, and we were sitting in the studio for last week. So that's very common behavior from me, I think. So that's quite normal.
So how was last week's studio?
With the links. I did too. I did have issues with the links as well, but it's all solved now. I finally got the idea behind one link and the other, so I might be doing it correct for the future.
We might be, and it could be a while, but we could be getting there. I think you're right. Yeah.
Well, it's two links, so it's not easy. You have to find the right one, and you guys added another level of complexity by including the time, and we have different links in different times, so that's interesting. Yeah, we just, before you guys joined, we were just talking about that fall is slowly coming, and we have a lot of fog and mist on the fields in the morning and in the afternoon, and that might influence what we are writing about. And Ilka said, well, maybe it influences her to write an erotic story.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I overshot the target. Romantic. I'm very sorry. Romantic. I used the wrong word.
And yes, and I liked Ilka's comment that Halloween's coming. I think that's a good influence.
That's my favorite time of year.
Yeah, mine too.
Because after Halloween there is Christmas.
That's true.
To do with it, but solstice for us, yes, solstice. The Halloween, I think, is an important and often missed sort of celebration. That autumn festival, the harvest festival, it's just so important, I think, to humanity to actually have these time periods. Obviously, in the Northern Hemisphere, where we have seasons, right? I mean. But yes,
well, that's true.
In Australia, actually, there's about 12 seasons or something like that. That's what
hot, very hot, extremely hot. I can't believe how hot it is. And what else?
Yes, indeed.
It depends which part of Australia, but down south there'll be 11 or so different seasons. which is more to do with what food is available as
okay.
much as the weather. And they are different, but they still pretend there's 4 seasons. But that's what happens with colonialism. They turn up and try to turn it into Europe.
Well,
And it makes no sense because, of course, they celebrate Halloween when it's Easter time, and they celebrate Easter at Halloween, and
Christmas in the
when
middle of
it's
summer.
in summer when it's supposed to be that summer festival. It's just very confusing growing up there. It really is.
yeah, I can imagine that.
Oh, we've confused Ilka so much she's left.
Yeah, she said, well, Christmas and summertime, I'm gone.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Santa Claus can't exist.
I'm having none of this. Yes.
Yeah, maybe until she's back. We celebrated our first Halloween the year we met, 92, and back then we just did a storytelling evening. We made a big bonfire, and we told horror stories or spooky stories, and that was our first Halloween, and it was a really good one.
Nice. Yeah. That's a good
Yes,
idea.
we've celebrated quite a few Halloweens.
It's been a while though.
Yeah, the last place we lived, we used to do the house up so much that people would come from neighbouring towns and villages to see our house.
We had
always good.
no decoration back then, not even a jack-o'-lantern. We just had the bonfire and the stories.
Yeah.
Some people came dressed up, and most didn't, because it was not very famous back then. It was just the first people got noticed it over here in Germany. But telling horror stories is a pastime we never stopped. I mean, we changed our parties a lot, but this telling story stuff, as you can see, it's still going strong.
Was there a story of somebody tapping on the car roof?
Oh yeah,
There has to
stories
be.
like that.
Yes,
And one time we did a game called Matchbox Story, and we had those long matches you used to light fireplaces back then. You know, those big ones.
Yep.
And they were lasting like 30 seconds or 40 seconds, and then you struck a match, and while it was burning, it was your time to tell the story. And when you had to drop it, you were done, and the next person continued the story into the direction wherever they wanted. And that was very interesting. So Ilka's back. Let me bring her in.
There she is.
Hey, where'd you go?
I don't know why I dropped out,
Oh,
but I'm back now.
There's a hiss. There's a hiss when you came back in the headphones.
oh yeah. There is a slight hiss and
Is your ventilator on the laptop?
I cannot change that. It's a laptop.
Oh, okay.
Oh, all right. Yeah, no, that's cool. You just need really expensive microphone and speakers, and that's what you really need.
Yeah.
Well, for next time we will try to attach your headset to see if that's better.
Speaking of, I have a box of chocolate that I'm sending over to you shortly. Lovely, Ilka.
Oh,
And we taste tested some of it just to check that it's safe. Just so you know.
So we should not mind any bite marks in it.
No, we sort of got carried away and had to buy some more.
you have some marzipan already? Because I'm the one person that loves the Christmas things coming in at the end of August. Everybody is screaming, too early, but I am the one buying the stuff first. So I get marzipan and Lebkuchen and even nuts. So I'm prepared for Christmas.
Oh, nuts that you have to crack yourself, yeah? Yes, that's a tradition. I remember that growing up with that. That was you knew Christmas was coming when the nuts came out, and the nutcracker.
Tangerines, nuts, and marzipan. That's Christmas.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and eggnog, and eierlikör, and just alcohol in general. Just keep it coming. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I cook a lot with wine, and it's important to put the lot at the right place. So I cook a lot with wine, and not I cook with wine a lot, or with
Aha.
a lot of wine. Oh, you see the cat?
Hello. Yes, we
Oh,
can.
yay!
Hi.
Hey,
That is
Puss
very,
Puss.
that is some
Wow,
very
that's
close-up cat over
It
there.
is.
that's a good. You've got a good camera there. It's a nice resolution.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's almost like a microscope, Ilka. Maybe you can coax the cat to go away a little bit, because that looks like something weird is happening.
Yeah, now something weird is happening on my screen. What's
We're having.
happening?
Well, I
Oh,
don't know. You're looking okay for
No,
us?
you look fine.
yeah,
You
look
look
fine.
There's something black blocking my view now.
Particularly brilliant with a cat behind you.
well. The cat must have done something.
It
Yeah,
probably activated something. I'm
Yeah.
always surprised what kind of keyboard shortcuts the cats can find, because I have no idea what they press most of the time.
and he did press something.
Yeah.
This is O'Malley. Oops, there. This is O'Malley, the little one.
Hello, O'Malley.
Hello, O'Malley. Yeah, he's
It's in
beautiful.
color.
Well, shall we start
Let's go.
I
into
think
our
we should. Yeah.
first fictional
Random.
exploration of the evening? We have the random first line prompt generator, and I will see what it serves us tonight. Ooh. As he opened the car door, there was a loud.
That's probably the most unfinished random line prompt that we've ever had, but I like it.
It's pretty unfinished, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
but you can decide what loud thing he hears. So I'll add that as a banner. And Ilka, I'll copy it into the chat so you can see it.
Danke.
Okay, so are you all ready to start?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then I'll start the timer and I'll talk to you again in 25 minutes.
See you in a
25.
minute.
Ciao.
Bye bye. Well, time is up.
Wow.
How are you guys doing? I would need like 2 more minutes. How is it with you?
I haven't actually got to that line yet. It's still, but yeah. So I could probably do with 20. Who knows? It was fun though. I managed to get about 556 words in there, so I felt quite good.
Yeah, I could do with 10 more minutes, but I take 2.
You guys want to do 2 more?
Yeah, go 2 more minutes. Go on.
Go on. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll give us 2.5
Nice.
because I can. So let's do it.
Gravy.
Exactly.
Well, there we go. And it was just enough time. I just finished.
Excellent.
Oh, well done.
In time, you're
In
great.
time. I was really it was ringing when I entered my last letter.
I'm still not done, but at least I got to that sentence. Well, at least I think.
That's a good start to have the sentence at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a very unusual sentence, I thought. I did finish at least, so I was quite pleased with that.
I'm fascinated to hear what everybody else has done because it just did not go where it was just, yeah, this was totally unexpected for me.
Actually, the same here. It didn't go anywhere at all where I thought it might go.
But you still finished?
Yep.
Whoa,
I did.
great.
I just
No, I
followed
didn't.
the story.
Let's hear it.
Well done,
Oh,
boys.
okay. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, go
Go
ahead.
on.
Okay. As he opened the car door, there was a loud clunk as something fell to the ground near his feet. He jumped back and, pulling the door wider, looked down to see a golden object. He'd never seen it before, couldn't work out where it had come from. He bent to pick it up, but as his fingers brushed against the item, several things seemed to happen at once. The object glowed as his fingertips brushed the surface. Despite the brief touch, He was immediately aware that the object was cold and metallic, or at least was initially. Despite he could feel the object beginning to pulse. He could sense this before he saw the glow emanating from the supposed inanimate object. His touch was still slight on the golden object as the glowing light began to brighten in time to the pulse he was feeling. Within his head, he could understand that hardly any time had passed since he'd put the keys into the lock of his car, but it was impossible to ignore the flood of sensations and awareness that seemed to be lasting an eternity. His awareness was suddenly in tune with his surroundings in a way he could never have imagined before. He could see the part of the road the object had clattered to, understanding the loud clunk was the metal rebounding off the asphalt surface. He could see the dirt on the road's edge with a clarity that enabled him to see contours on the surface as if he was looking at an ordnance map. Despite his ego's awareness that none of what was happening could be real, he could sense the particles of the road and the dirt in front of him. He could sense his car on the edge of the road, but when he tried to focus towards the vehicle, he found his mind slipping off the machine that was not a part of the earthly dirt in front of him. He realized he couldn't remember the make of his car or the color, even if it was his car. His attention slipped back to the dirt on the edge of the tarmac that was hiding the life underneath. He could feel the elements of the dirt and discovered it was not a structure of muck as he'd once thought, but a diverse array of elements and teeming with life at every point. He felt his mind reach under the soil, even as his hand continued to reach for the object that had fallen so mysteriously. He tried to see what the object looked like, but there was no discernible shape, only a movement that suggested possibilities. His mind slipped from the thought and returned underground, past worms and spiders and beetles and aphids and bacterium and cellular parasites, and finally to threads of electrical matter that pervaded the entire earth. His mind reacted to the find and dove into the electronic movement within the mycelium network, a term that had just come to him. He'd never known anything about mushrooms before, and he knew he hadn't heard it because he'd worked as a... What did he do for work? He felt himself split as the awareness in the electrical network moved on, and he found himself back at the golden glowing object. Incredibly, he was still bending to pick it up, but he could see the object was moving around his wrist, molding itself to him. He began to panic as he tried to remember what he did for work. Why was he getting in this car? What was his name? What did he look like? A dark fear grew inside as he realized the awareness of himself slipping away. There was a sensation of something moving towards him. It was the part of his awareness that had moved into the electrical threads of the mycelium network. He realized it was not a part of him at all. He tried to pull his hand back, but the golden substance suddenly moved around and into him. His body stopped in mid-bending and was still for a long time. Suddenly, his spine snapped up. Anyone close would have seen his eyes turn golden. The man looked around and then leant towards the mirror on the side of the blue car. Ah, that's what I look like.
Wow,
Yes.
this is mind-boggling.
Well, I think it's how the aliens are gonna invade. Yeah.
It has for me it had an X-Files vibe.
Aha.
Yeah.
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Picking up the little glittering gold thing that comes from nowhere.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
cool.
I had no
I love
idea
the
where.
mushrooms.
Well, yes, the mycelium network was.
To be honest, if I think back on the X-Files, you know, they always had this cold start where something happened to somebody and then they had to investigate.
Yep.
And this reminds me extremely of something like this. Like this guy now, whatever happened, and now Mulder and Scully come in and try to figure out what this is all about.
I even had a song in my mind. It was so cool.
Which one? Sorry.
The song from Snow, I think he's called. The theme song. Theme song. No, theme
That's
song.
theme song. That's the theme song. Yeah.
Oh, from the X-Files. I've got you. Yes, now I can hear it.
Theme
Now-
song.
Write my own theme song. Sing my own.
You're very cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, that sounded really good. It was very well written, of course.
Yes.
You seem to be getting better every week, David. Yeah, it was really, it wasn't verbose, but it was just delightful.
I did like the fact that it literally came when I read that sentence. I literally thought, no idea. What did he even heard? And then I thought, he heard a loud clunk. What is it? I've got no idea. I really didn't have any idea, which made it very entertaining.
Yeah, and that is what I really enjoy with the flash fiction, because it just drives you into one scene, one image in your imagination, and sometimes you were not even aware of that being there, and that surprises yourself, and that is what I really like.
No, I agree.
I like it too. And with this flash fiction thing, something jumps into my mind. I'm not used to that, but it's like something is jumping into my mind, and I just have to get it out. So I like that very much. It's a little bit of a challenge. And for the past times, I didn't finish my stories, but I did finish the well story. I finished that.
Oh, good.
Well done.
Thorsten will post it on his blog, so you can have the full reading. I'm very excited and eager to know what you think about the full story.
She came to me one morning and said, well, yesterday I sat till 5 a.m. and finished the book or the story. And I said, well, I wish I could write like this with that much focus.
Oh, God, yeah. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
definitely. You have to send us a link to that, Dawson, so we can read that, please.
We will. I'm currently editing it, and once that's done, I'll send you a link.
Please.
Thorsten has to brush out the blood.
Ilka, want to show us what you came up with today?
Yeah, sure. It's not finished, per usual. But I quite like it. And I will finish this story too, because there is potential, I think. And this has to be rewritten as well. But the basic idea is there. As he opened the car door, there was a loud clicking sound. He immediately felt hot and cold at the same time, a jolt running through his entire body, trying to figure out what just happened. Yes, it was what he thought it would be. It must, so it is. Probably. Afraid to move just the tiniest inch in his seat, he opened his selfie camera on his phone to have a look underneath his seat. Unfortunately, he had no telescope arms, so while he considered this to be a brilliant idea, he had to admit it couldn't work. Annika always had told him one day he would pay for his sins. So would this be the day she was right? Marcus didn't want her to be right. Is there time for remorse? Could he take it all back? Ah, no, he's kidding. He would do everything the same, no regrets. Isn't that what it is about? Living life to the fullest? Time to figure out and move on. There is much to do, and well, tomorrow's payday. He never had missed one. So Marcus felt the jolt and the shivers in his body clearing away, and his brain went back to functioning. Who you gonna call? Flashed through his mind. And then he thought, yeah, 911. That would be a good idea. Marcus considered the past 2 weeks and the highlights of the past 10 years and was certain there had to be a bomb underneath his seat. So he dialed, calmly explained his assumption, and gave the lady at the response hotline an incentive to move him up in the queue. Yes, open place with many pedestrians. With the office closing soon, this should be a real hotspot soon. Shortly after, horns, blue and red lights from police and SWAT moving in. One man in full armor approached Marcus. Hello, Mr. Bonham. My name is Martin. I'm here for you. How are you feeling? Nice. What a friendly introduction to what could very well end in both of their lives. Martin, you can call me Marcus. Martin listened to Marcus explain the situation and then, with a quick look, confirmed, Yup, bomb. Don't worry, we handle these situations all the time. You're in good hands. How wonderful. There goes dinner with Nikki, Marcus thought. She was suspicious anyway. No way she would believe this one true story. Can I use my phone? Marcus, I'd like you not to.
Mhm.
We don't know exactly what we're dealing here with yet. So, do you have any idea who would like to blaze a bomb underneath you? Or why? And seamless, endless list of names scrolled through Marcus' mind. No, not at all. All right. A little over an hour later, Marcus was standing next to his car, stretching his legs, shaking a couple of officers' hands, and obviously everyone involved was relieved. Day safe, time to move on. The car was confiscated for investigation purposes. All right, who indeed was responsible? Marcus didn't see a point at this time to call Nikki. She wouldn't believe him anyway, so why waste time? Amelia, on the other hand, could be free. No. He had a tight alibi for Amelia why he couldn't attend the family dinner with her tonight. So, Susan, yes, Susan. Waiting for Susan in a cafe close by, Marcus in his mind screened the possibilities. It could be the Millers. He had tricked them out of their entire money, leaving them with, well, their naked life. Yes, so no, it couldn't be them. They couldn't afford a bomb. So it would have to be someone he didn't completely strip. The list was shrinking immediately. That's a good thing.
So he's a complete scumbag.
Yes.
He should. Well, I'm guessing that the Misty didn't create the the erotic material, but the deadly material.
Unless that was still
Straight
upcoming.
to Well, yeah, I thought Marcus and Martin. I suddenly thought, oh, they're going to go under the Misty Moors, are they? But no, it was a bomb.
It reminded me of this commercial. Do you know the Mercedes commercial where he comes home and he's very late and he says, "I'm so sorry, honey, I had a car breakdown," and she smacks him with a Mercedes. Didn't believe it. I thought of that the girl, I had a bomb. What, on your Mercedes? Bam!
Yeah.
Actually, I thought of exactly that reaction. He told her so many stories in my mind. She wouldn't believe this one. And since there was the investigation still going on, there wouldn't be news on it. So there was no way to prove it. And he couldn't take pictures.
No.
Would be so nice to have a spot picture. The
Oh, no.
spot officer.
That was fun. You should do more of that one. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Your dialogue's always fun.
Yes.
I do like that. Yes.
Yeah, a very dry police officer. Yeah, bomb.
Yeah. Can I use the phone? Ooh, maybe not. No.
Yeah, maybe. We'd really rather not. Yeah, that's wonderful. You can really picture that, actually all of that. So it was quite.
Yeah. You
It was
can.
delightful. Yeah, really well described.
Thank you.
Yes, it's getting. I can still hear everybody.
Daniel, do you want
All right,
to go first, or do you want to go first?
I think we need to go to you because we've sort of moved. I'm moving around the squares. So we went from David to Ilka, as far as I can see on my screen, anyway.
Oh, no.
Okay, you're next.
Yeah.
Well
Definitely.
done.
Same on mine.
Yeah,
The clock
Then
is turning
I'll
that way.
that's
I'll
right.
read mine.
Oh, that's it.
As he opened the car door, there was a loud bang down the garage. He froze, listening, 1 foot outside on the pavement. The bang came from all the way down the hall of the subterranean garage, down where the damn light was broken for over 3 weeks now. He had told the super to deal with it because it scared his wife. But to be honest, it scared him as well. The missing light plunged the garage into an uncomfortable twilight, and his parking spot was right at the edge of the darkness, light enough to see, but dark enough to let you imagine all kind of things. There had been many evenings where he did run towards the elevator door, not out of necessity, but because his imagination had painted those kind of pictures that included lots of crimson and sharp claws. All of this shot through his head in an instant. He grabbed his suitcase that was resting on the passenger seat and, still listening into the darkness, made himself ready to dash for the elevator door, or even the door to the staircase right next to it. The exercise would do him good. He was about to exit the car when there was a deep rumbling out of the darkness. It sounded a little like Mrs. Bixby's German Shepherd when he saw a cat, but so much louder and darker. Dexter Warren imagined a big hairy chest raise and fall with every breath. Dexter pulled his foot back into the car as silently as he could, images of claws under cars being very vivid in his mind. The growling deepened and a small whimper escaped from Dexter's lips. The sounds immediately stopped. Dexter stared into the darkness of the garage, willing his eyes to breach the blackness, to see something, anything, and hoping that he would not see two glowing coals that were the eyes of something. He held his breath, not daring to move, staring until stars started flashing in front of his eyes. He saw nothing, and with the care that came from mortal terror, he relaxed his lungs and eased the air out of them, hoping they would not spasm and make a sound. He slowly sucked his next breath in, fighting the urge to gulp in fresh air into his lungs that burned and yearned. He was so careful, but he still made a little sound, a little sigh as the air flowed into him. Again there was a sound, claws scrabbling on concrete. And then there was the smell. He had been to a bog once, when he was a boy. His dad wanted to show him the sunken village of Partan, almost completely swallowed in the bog with just the tips of the roof sticking out of the foul water. His dad had told him that to this day no one knew if everyone had escaped the huts when the water came, or if there were still corpses inside of those houses. Dexter had imagined for months that a bloated, blackened corpse would come for him, a corpse that smelled like that bog, a mixture of decay and oil, the same smell that was filling the garage now. Sweat was running down his face, and when he heard the growling again, he did not think. Whimpering, he pulled the foot into the car, and the door shut. He fumbled with the ignition key and then got the car started. He saw something black and hairy shoot towards the car in his side mirror. Screaming, with tears running down his face, he moved the transmission from P to D and floored the gas pedal. The furry thing grasped his door handle, and as the car shot forward, he heard its claws scratch over the car like chalk of a sadistic teacher over the blackboard. Dexter tried to steer the car out of its parking spot, but the little Corvette had a lot of power, and Dexter had pushed the pedal all the way to the metal. He crashed into the next row of cars with enough force to knock him out. The two policemen looked at the accident in astonishment. The Corvette had drilled itself into a parking car and compressed like it was made out of cardboard. The driver was sitting behind the wheel, the flaccid remains of the airbag in his lap, with his eyes so wide open that they seemed to produce from his face and a grimace of terror on his face. He was clearly dead. One of the police officers asked, "Have you ever seen someone crash so hard into parked cars in a parking garage that he is killed by it?" The other one shook his head and said, "Must have been a shock." Then they heard a loud bang from the darkened part of the garage.
Well, they had weapons.
Well, they better have a silver bullet.
I think so, right? Yeah. That sounded.
That is so evil. He died.
That's great.
Corvette.
It was really good. Yes, in
Yeah,
the
that's
Corvette.
surprise memorable.
At least there was a fast car in it.
Yeah, and he got it started immediately. It was not one of those horror movie cars that did not drive. Didn't help him any, but
Yeah.
he got it started immediately.
No, I liked that he lost it because he put the accelerator down too fast. I thought that was clever. Yeah, because panic, you know, and when you have a car that powerful, that's what happens, you know.
Yeah, he
It
just couldn't
does it.
steer that thing. It just catapulted into the other row of cars.
Absolutely. If you've
Terror.
been driving
And
a
from
cheaper
Tokyo
car,
Drift, you know how to steer a car. So
Yeah, well, true.
Yeah, but
He
if he, I mean, he just wanted to get away, and then he hit the gas, and even if, I mean, even if you steer with such a car, it will just blow on.
yeah,
you skill
precisely.
to drift along.
But yeah, nice.
Sketchy.
That did surprise me. That was great. Well, again, well described, wonderfully written.
I feel for the car a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
I
that
mean,
was a twist.
we
that I
know
wasn't
that you
expecting.
feel another level of horror at that story because the car died. The guy doesn't matter, but the car died.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Car.
But
Well,
yes, of course, all of our stories have a car in it because, well, that tagline was that,
Oh,
that
yes.
little prompt.
We
I
did
mean,
have a car.
as he opened the car door. But yeah, it's interesting the kinds of cars that we actually chose. I think that says a lot about our storytelling too. Yeah, I really love that. That was great. Well done for finishing. I'm really starting to get jealous about everyone who's finishing their stories. But I'm not 100% sure, as I said, where mine was going. I don't really understand this one, but yeah. And yours is a scary one, Torsten. I think that's a nice thing too. It's going back to the theme. I'm not 100% sure anybody else has really written a scary story, unless Ilka's is. I mean, it's a little bit scary, I suppose.
I don't know. My guy had his whole body taken over. It was a body snatcher.
Yeah.
Body snatcher.
I was
But
very
it could have
scared
been.
about all the
Yeah,
dirt.
I'm not sure what happened to your guy. I don't know that he deceased or but I'm not 100% sure yet. I'm still
but he
waiting.
got kidnapped by a mushroom, so that is a horrible imagination.
Did he though, or was he just taking magic mushrooms? I mean, come on.
Well, that could also be. I mean,
You could be infiltrated. You could be an
I think Mulder and Scully has to work that one out.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens. All right, I'm going to read mine, and then then we can move on to another one. But as I said, sadly not finished. But anyway, it starts with the lyrics: "Almost Heaven, West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountains, Shenandoah River." The famous song began to play on the radio just as he was driving around the last twist of the mountain road that stretched out before him. The vista that came into his view was utterly breathtaking, and Jack actually had to tell himself to breathe out, as he literally found that he had held his breath in those last few seconds before he drove his car off the main stretch of the highway and onto the dirt track that would accompany him on this final stretch of his journey. Life is old there, older than the trees, younger than the mountains, growing like a breeze. John Denver continued to sing along, and Jack thought about how many years ago he had come here with his father, who had quoted those very lines of the song before Jack even knew who John Denver was. His mother rarely let Jack see his father, and she almost certainly would not play the devil's music in her house, or let her only God-fearing child ever hear a note of it if she could help it. "Life is old here, Jack," his father had said through stained teeth, whilst inhaling yet another puff from the hand-rolled cigarette that had made them yellow. He would almost certainly be smoking one whenever he was outdoors, and there was a small groove on his bottom right lip that fit the cigarette perfectly. Older than the trees. Jack had not really understood what that had meant, but his father went on to describe the land that he had set aside many years ago, a small patch of forest hidden within the shade of the famously blue-colored mountains. "I'm showing you this, Jack, because one day you're going to need to come back here." His father looked deep into his eyes. Somehow Jack thought that his father's smile had something sad about it. "It won't be for a very long time, but you will need to come back." And here he was, driving his well-worn but still quite stylish convertible Cadillac down through the trees towards the shack that his father had called home for the last 28 years. Jack had often thought about his father after that trip all those years ago. How old had he actually been? 7 or maybe 8? His father had shown him the land, made him memorize the route from the highway, and Jack had dutifully done exactly that. Then his mother had moved away from Amherst to Portsmouth, where she joined the local charismatic church and soon after became one of its more ardent followers. Jack's mother was often found in the main street speaking loudly about the coming tribulations that were to come. Jack would never tell her, but secretly he felt ashamed of her behavior. This anger that she always carried around with her and was always ready to strike out like a poisoned viper should anyone dare not live up to her judgmental stares. Jack's father had drifted away after that. Jack had always thought that his father had forgotten about him, something that his mother was sure to impress upon Jack should he ever ask about him. But it was only after her death that he found the letters and cards that he had sent every year without fail, hidden away in one of his mother's dresser drawers. And of course, it was exactly at that moment that he realized that he would need to make the journey back to see his father, just as his father had predicted that he would. As he opened the car door, there was a loud crash in the trees to the left, and the sudden sound
Of a sudden stop.
That's God. Oh.
But I managed to get there in those last 2.5 minutes, but then it was like, still calling time. All right, fine.
But man, you should finish this. This is a beautiful
Definitely.
start.
Yeah, I don't know where it came from. That's the thing. I really
What do you
don't know.
mean? I can think of 3 elements where it come from. Dusty will like it.
Exactly, won't he? Just yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
West Virginia, John Denver, and judgmental peoples.
Yeah, I can recommend to you ignore the next line and just continue that story.
Yeah, exactly. That was good.
Yeah, cheers. Yeah, I'm looking for. I mean, it's nice, and this is what I love about the flash fictions in general. Is just the ability to have this creativity just flow out of you, and remind ourselves that actually, it's there. It's always there. We just have to let it out.
Yeah,
that's delightful. Thanks, guys. That was really fun one, actually.
So if you have the feeling there is more happening in your head, just continue that story. You don't have to do the next line.
That's true. I think I will come back to this one. It depends on what the thing is. You see, the problem is I get so excited about the ideas. When I see the random words, I immediately go, oh, there's something there. I can feel it. So yeah, I have to start writing that.
Well, whatever makes you most happy, do that.
Indeed.
But that is a really good start. I mean, that could be a really nice story.
Yeah, it could be a book.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm definitely. I need to find some time. This is the truth. I keep saying every week that I'm going to write more, and then never mind.
Yeah,
well, somebody keeps telling you about how you should just do 15, 20 minutes at a time, like this teaches you. I don't know who.
Yeah. And I saw the other day that I can't remember her name, Anika. She was on YouTube. She was doing, write with me this morning, and I was like, I've really got to do that, but I didn't.
Yeah, Anya. Anya is doing that, I think, every day during the week now. Unfortunately, right during my business hours, so I cannot join her there. And when she came back from vacation, I actually asked her if she wanted to join us. But she says in the morning is better for her and the kids because the kids are at school, and it's better for her rhythm, except for Sunday evenings because they usually do something together on Sunday, and then it's all a bit compressed to get a stream sorted out in the evening as well.
Yeah, one day.
Yeah, one day. Or maybe we'll do one day in the morning too. Maybe we'll all take a holiday, right? Yeah.
Well, I will send you when the next write-a-thon is in October. Maybe we can get a couple of writing sessions into there. It's a weekend of write and excitement, and it's of course a Halloween one. So, woohoo!
Hey.
Do we have listeners today?
At the moment, we do not. I think we didn't have so far. We just have 0, but you never know who looks into it afterwards because it is still online afterwards.
That's the truth. And a lot of people, I know it's about 3:00 in the morning in Australia. So if, our Australian fans, they'll all be watching it when they wake up, of course. As soon as they wake up, they'll be straight on there watching it.
Yeah.
I forgot to, I thought I posted a link to it, and I've just checked my Facebook feed and it's got nothing in there. So.
No, it was there. I saw it. It was there. Yeah. You did post a link.
I can't find it now, but anyway. So I don't really understand how that works.
But I mean, we have 0 viewers now, but the more famous we get, the more people will find us. So
exactly.
Don't worry. At some point, hordes of people will watch us.
Oh,
Yeah,
they'll watch back on the past ones. Exactly. So we must be careful about what we say, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so always remember to wear
realized I was
underpants,
chewing
so
on
you never know what we will be watching in the future.
Hi.
I should be careful what I'm chewing, because I didn't realize that you can still watch us tomorrow, and I was just munching away the nuts.
Yeah, so want to see where fate takes us next?
Yes.
yes.
Okay, I'll hit the button. Ooh, the
Oh.
attack was over in seconds.
Oh, that's an easy one.
Oh, I already hear the blood drenching out of Ilka's quill for that
Boom.
one. Boom, blood.
Story finished.
Okay.
Delightful. Okay.
Right.
Well, I'll hit the timer, and we will talk again in 25 minutes.
25. Oh.
Well, here we are again. How are you all?
Good.
Good.
Again.
I literally finished the last word as it went to 0.
Well done. I literally just finished then as well. I have a finished story.
Woohoo!
Where I believe. So I'm feeling good about myself again. How about you guys? Torsten's still
I
writing.
need one more sentence, then I'm done.
Go for it.
Go for it.
Yeah, I have finished my last sentence as well. So I'm done too. Woohoo!
Wow.
Oh, well done, guys and girls.
So, did you finish your story or did you
Yes.
start?
Barely. I finished barely. I could do with one more sentence, but I think.
Well, then write this one more sentence and we will do some small talk chit chat to
All right.
Yeah.
save you the time that you need.
Good.
So, Daniel, you finished your first story?
I did, yes.
Nice.
No, I didn't finish my first story. No, I wrote another story,
Okay.
but it's contained. It's finished. I kind of knew immediately. I could see it. It was short. It was going to be a page. It's about 500 words. It's 496. I knew immediately where it was going to end.
Woo.
So it was good actually. I saw the story pretty quickly.
Sweet.
Yeah, it was good.
And David,
Yeah,
how was it for you?
Well, I did it different because I read it and it didn't come the same, and I decided to use what was happening around us, and we've been talking about Halloween. So this time I decided to write a Halloween story,
Nice one.
which
Very
was
good.
yeah. So it was different because I was trying to force it to create that space. But
Yeah,
I
we're
still
getting-
think the well one was better. I think.
We are getting into the spooky territory. I like it.
Yes, we should.
Yeah, I think mine's a bit spooky too, but it's sort of just yeah.
Mine really exploded out of me. I have written 905 words,
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah,
which
that
is
is a lot.
pretty wild for 25 minutes.
That is a lot.
That's cool. That's very, very, very impressive. I'm just going to call you Isaac Asimov now.
Yeah, I read about people who really write like 3,000 words an hour, and I always thought this is impossible. But with 905 in 25 minutes, I'm getting to impossible territory, which is
Yes.
quite cool.
Yeah.
Well, Ilka's still writing. I think she's looking like she's killing someone right now.
Yeah, I think I might need more than just one sentence, but I'm done. I can read it. I think the idea is there. I just have to refine the end.
If it's okay for you,
Done. Yes.
I would like to start.
Yes.
Okay, so let's see what you think. Haha. The attack was over in seconds. Miriam Pleasant crawled over the oil-smeared concrete, leaving behind a red trail of her live blood. Groaning, she settled next to the corpse of a police officer who stared at her with bloodshot eyes and a mouth frozen in a scream. The creature had opened a second mouth on his neck, and he had bled out immediately, drenching his uniform and forming a sticky puddle where he had slumped down next to a wrecked Corvette. With shaking fingers, Miriam pulled his sidearm out of his holster. He never even had time to use it. The firearm would not help against the creature, but against those that followed it. And she needed to get out of this garage and to the hospital if she wanted to live. One part of the garage lay in darkness, and as Miriam was grabbing an extra magazine of ammunition, she heard a loud bang. Time was running out. She needed to go. Just as she was about to crawl to the door of the elevator, she stopped. She spotted something on the belt of the cop. something that might just help her to survive. She smiled as she grabbed it and then made her way painfully towards the doors. She got about 2 more meters before she heard the shuffling. Of course, those that followed wanted their pound of flesh, quite literally. She tried to ignore the sounds and to focus on the door, but even with all her training, this was hard. You would need ice running through your veins to ignore the groans, shuffling, and soon after the sounds of tearing flesh and breaking bones. She crawled another meter before she had to take a look. There were 3 of them, clothes torn, bodies torn open, terrible, bloodless wounds all over the body. The first one had reached the corpse of the cop and was tearing parts of the poor man from his body and stuffed it into his mouth, chewing busily. The other 2 were focused on her, shuffling towards her. One fell on his hands and knees and started licking the bloody trail she was leaving on the floor, inching closer on hands and knees, the tongue on the ground, licking again and again. Miriam felt strangely violated by that and felt the red cloud of anger wipe away her training and filling her with rage. She rolled on her back and pulled her gun with shaking hands. The bastard on the ground did not react, still totally focused on licking up her blood. With a grunt, she pulled the trigger, but the shot went wide, the bullet ringing on something metallic in the darkness. The creature still ignored her, and she fired 3 more times. Amazingly, she managed to miss all 3 times. Come on, Miriam, she grunted. Pull yourself together. She calmed her breathing, even though it hurt, the wound the creature had clawed into her belly. When the hand stopped shaking, like she was a crack addict, she aimed for the head and gently squeezed the trigger. This time she hit, and with a small spasm, the creature collapsed and stopped moving. Miriam grinned, but the grin was immediately replaced by a grimace of pain as the third one she had let out of her side stumbled towards her and bit deeply into her left hand. Miriam screamed in pain and tried to pull her hand back, but the guy had bitten so deeply into her hand that blood was welling out of his teeth. She groaned, and the breath stinking of rotten flesh and blood almost made her gag. She put the muzzle of her gun directly on the forehead of the jumping creature and pulled the trigger. He fell back and collapsed on the ground, twitching. Miriam looked at her hand. There was a chunk of flesh missing, and she could see remains of her tendons through the hole. When she tried to move her fingers, she almost passed out from the pain. Tears flowed down from her face, a mixture of pain, fear, and frustration finding an outlet. She wanted to lay on the floor and rest for a moment when there was a howl from the darkness. That made her hair stand up on her arms and back. It was coming. She mustered all her strength and got to her feet, pulling the thing she found on the cop out of her pocket. The door to the elevator was close, maybe 3 more meters, but with the thing coming from her, it could as well have been on the moon. She stumbled towards it when she heard the scrabbling of claws on the concrete. She pressed the button, and with a ding, the elevator's door opened. The thing was really close now. She lurched forward and whirled around, firing. The wolf creature had reached the elevator's doors when the twin studs of the taser hit it right in the chest. Thousands of volts pumped into its body, and it stopped to react. The creature collapsed on the ground, its twitching, outstretched claws scraping over the tip of Miriam's shoes. She pressed the elevator button and kicked the claw outside. The taser would last only for a couple more seconds, but it might be enough. The creature jumped up and forward just as the doors closed. Miriam might just live for another day.
Is Werewolf Man tonight?
He is, yes.
I love that.
Oh, I did.
Was the second part of the story? Did you recognize the garage?
Yes,
I did, and the Corvette as well, a little red
Me
Corvette.
too.
I thought, oh, here we go. Yeah.
At the Corvette, I thought, wow, this is the continuance.
Continuation.
Great.
Yeah.
Continuation. This is
Ah, yeah, that's
Awesome.
good. That's actually, that's been really impressive that you've managed to tie both
Two
randoms
stories
together.
I like that.
And I had the idea that the victims of this wolfman, they do not turn into werewolves,
Right.
but they turn into like zombie-like things that try to eat other people. So he's having a pack of, I don't know, things that follow, I call them here, which eat up stuff that he's killing.
This is new.
Yeah.
Really new.
Scavengers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the idea. Death scavengers.
Werewolves yet.
Yeah, so they do not turn into werewolves, but into scavengers is probably a good word. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's fair because vampires have those ghouls. Why shouldn't werewolves have something like that? So this is a first. I've never had this idea or
No.
read about it. So go for it. This is cool.
Mm.
And she was really happy that she had the taser, because even a werewolf, I can imagine, would have problems shaking it off. It probably would not hurt it long, but while
It would-
the power is flowing, it might lose for a moment its facilities.
And there'd be a good burnt hair smell.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's good. I
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one.
Mm.
So who wants to go on?
And I really do. Should we go anti-clockwise now?
Go on then. Who's
Sure.
that?
Go on.
That would
That's
be
Ilka
Ilka.
then.
Oh, Ilka. No, again.
Go for it.
You.
Yeah, you, Ilka. You have to go for it.
Okay, all right.
You go for it. Yeah.
I go for it. The attack was over in seconds. Blood dripped from his wrists. He spit out the drops that splashed into his mouth. Well, he didn't plan on being it over so quickly, but you gotta go with the flow, a hippie once told him. An advice that would come in handy just now. He was almost certain the hippie didn't mean it. He was almost certain the hippie did mean it in a different way. But who was he to judge? Actually, he was the judge. A smile ran over Hal's face, and a soft snicker evaded him as he realized how powerful he really was. Yes, he had it all. Usually he enjoyed his work for a little longer and liked to drag it out, but this one was feisty, so it had to be cut short. Proud and satisfied with himself, Hal stood up, his legs left and right from the body in a puddle of blood just forming. He exhaled slowly, enjoying his perfect work. This time he had carefully wrapped the entire room liquid-proof, so no scrubbing for days. Ha! Every time he would improve and refine his work. It is an art, really, if you are honest. Just sad that you cannot share it with everyone. Imagine the fame and the glory. He would be one of the tops in this genre for sure. Very few can appreciate this special talent, though. But those few, they pay very well. Oh, yes. And this was a contract work. Hal liked his free art better, but he has to pay his bill just like average Joe. It was a lucky coincidence he found this network of art-interested wealthy people willing to pay almost every price for his service. Although Hal despises the description "service", he likes his work to be called what it is, the purest form of art. Pictures taken, videos taped, sometimes even snippets of the remains included, his contractors would receive a package for their pleasure. So now the disposal is the part he didn't enjoy as much, but comes with the job, so to say. He had a very sophisticated system that worked perfectly well. With the time he saved on this one, tomorrow he could already move on to the next one. So in the morning, Hal got up to get going. He wasn't much interested in his target's names, he just sometimes needed them if his contractors required specific victims. He liked it better when he could pick his targets freely. It just made his work so much more enjoyable. But the much better pay made up for the inconvenience of specifics. The next one was a woman, Claudia. He picked her up from work, snatched her behind the diner. So easy with chloroform, almost boring. The first pictures were taken already. This contractor was very clear in his instructions. He wanted to review almost every step. Claudia woke up to a tiny room to a tiny dark room smelling like chlorine. Chlorine? And in the
Chlorine.
background, movement and cussing to the sound of the news. The police, for the first time, has a lead: saliva. One of the victims carried traces of saliva, which very well could be leading to the serial killer.
He's a lovely, particular creature.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, I thought it was like Dexter, but it's not, because he's way too artistic. More like what's his name? Siskin's Perfume, the book Perfume.
Ah,
He was sort of that sort of wonderful crazy, where it's this, yeah, it's an intellectual space. Oh, he's nasty.
he's nasty.
He is
And
nasty.
He isn't that clever because he didn't wipe the saliva from the body.
Yes, after
Made a
putting all the
mistake.
plastic up and everything, they
Yeah.
always make a mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he tried the world's most effective pickup line on Claudia.
Yeah.
Does this smell of chloroform? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a little bit überheblich.
Überheblich.
Overconfident.
Confident. Okay, confident. No, I was trying to work it out. I got the first bit. Uber's a bit.
I must admit, I have to work it out too. Heafly? It's like, what?
Yes, he was overconfident.
Ooh, yes, indeed. Well, I thought he was a demon to begin with, so, you know.
Ah.
And then I was like, oh, okay, he's not a demon. He's just a serial killer, which, you know, hey, potato, right?
Yeah, right.
Just one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Ike, when was the romance part coming in?
Yeah.
I'm not sure, depending on the next line, maybe. Maybe there's romance coming in.
Yeah.
I don't feel very romancy with this line. The attack was over in seconds.
Well, could have been like a very erotic scene.
Yes.
Ooh, yeah.
I don't feel it.
Ike, I can try to find an erotic prompt generator for you for the next time.
I'm not going for erotic. Romance is the
Romantic, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
romantic. Sorry, it's my dirty mind. It's all my fault.
I don't know. I've read some romance novels, and they're pretty dirty. To be fair, you know, they go dirty places pretty quickly. It doesn't take much.
Well, Torsten knows I'm the most romantic person on earth. I even sometimes write little love notes like, "Baby, I love you." So I'm super romantic.
Yeah,
I know. Well,
that's true.
Pretty, yeah,
It's
that's true.
amazing.
Definitely.
Sometimes I buy flowers. So
That's good. That is good.
That's
Yeah,
nice.
that's when she tries to explain to me why she had a breakdown with the Mercedes.
Nobody breaks down in a Mercedes.
no.
Slap.
Actually, I did break down with a Mercedes once.
Yeah. See, she's trying to tell that to us.
Yeah, it was.
Where are
with
the flowers? Yeah.
Ike,
Oh no, that was the Passat. I broke down. Did I break down with the Beatles or Passat?
you broke down with the Mercedes. Well, you claimed you did.
Yeah, you were home late.
Yeah, there was a bang and I couldn't get up the hill. I'm sorry, honey. It took me 2 hours to get home the last 500 meters.
But the time I did call the auto service, it was with the Passat, I think. They picked me up and drove me to the garage. Remember that one? It was right behind the tunnel. I was lucky. Because my nightmare is to be stuck in a tunnel with a broken down car.
Oh yeah. I don't like that idea.
It was right after the tunnel.
That's
Actually,
good. Yeah.
I did roll a little bit to get out of the tunnel.
Push, roll along. No, I'm with you. Don't be stuck in the tunnel.
Rolling.
Yeah. Tunnels aren't good. Yeah, and always bad things happen in tunnels. You know.
Yeah.
And stay away from garages at night, obviously, because they're dangerous places. Well.
Yeah, especially if the light is broken.
as Torsten has just again.
I have a little special light, and I put it on the roof of the car. That was the Passat. It was not the B-Class, so it was the Passat, not the Mercedes. I put it on the top. I did put on the flashing lights and the special flashing light on the top, which is a magnet. And it was getting dark. It was like 8 o'clock because I was going to an appointment. And a dude honked. He saw all the flashing lights and still he honked because I was blocking the way, which I didn't. I was in a curve of the road, but with the blinking lights, you could see me from far away, and he honked. That really made me mad. I would have loved to smack his face, but he didn't stop.
Yeah,
Just
but Ilka, you had your scary story, so no smacking for you anymore. You had your chance. It's now David's turn.
Aha. When it finally came, the attack was over in seconds. There was only a bloody shell hanging from the ceiling. Somehow Gail had managed to keep quiet throughout the ordeal, although between the noise of the attacker and the screams of her best friend Ralph, it was unlikely she would have been heard. Now the final act had occurred, there was nothing but silence, and she held her breath, hoping she would remain unheard and unseen. The silence grew like a predator waiting for a mistake. With a hesitant motion, she glanced towards Ralph had been. Parts of his innards were stretching towards the ground and blood pooled around his inert body. She felt the gasp leave her before she was aware she'd made any noise. In response, she could hear the sharp jolt of a fast-moving body. She froze. For 5 years, Ralph had pleaded with her to come to a place like this. He was a horror freak, would always seek out the most terrifying Halloween events and plead with her to go with him. The truth was, he was too afraid to go on his own and had never been to a Halloween event until this year. Now he was old enough to have a license. His parents had bought him a new car, not just any new car, but the latest Tesla sports car. Gail loved fast cars and only agreed to go if he let her drive the new car. And drive it she did, at speed and with a furious intent on making sure no one was in front of her. As they mostly drove on the motorway, she was always passing someone. Ralph sat in the seat, frozen in fear. He'd only become quiet when she demanded he stopped his screaming and learned to trust her. Ralph had never been in the car before with her driving. She found it weird such a horror freak could be so scared of so many things. So she'd driven him out to the middle of nowhere for a Halloween freak show in a supposed haunted house. At first, it was just as she expected, with fake effects in overlit or underlit rooms, with students happy to take shit wages to usher through the gullible tourists. It had all seemed like the typical conning of money from the gullible. Why did Ralph like this nonsense? They'd been friends since they grew up next to each other, and he was like her brother. Annoying at times, but he was her annoying, nerdy friend, and woe betide anyone trying to give him shit. So she put up with his nonsense like this for Ralph all the time. All was as expected until they'd reached this room. It was decked out like a torture chamber, and now she was kicking herself when she hadn't followed her gut as they'd walked through a corridor that squeezed you forward. Gail had remarked how lifelike the corpses at the entrance had been, but Ralph just got more excited. There's always one room that's the showcase, he said, as if he had any idea what he was talking about. This must be it. He pushed forward ahead of her, and she saw him suddenly thrust through the hole with a whoop of surprise. The undulating corridor pushed her through the expectant opening. As she went through, she saw a vast man with strips of flesh hanging from his face, holding Ralph up with one hand. Her gut screamed that something was wrong, and she'd thrown herself under the table she was now hiding under. She watched as her beautiful friend remained unaware of the danger until the man pushed his raised body onto a meat hook hanging from the ceiling. And here she'd stayed watching a maniac slowly rip apart her best friend. After the attack and the silence, she finally heard a noise and realized someone else was coming through the opening. She saw a young girl starting to move through. There was no sign of the maniac, so she rushed forward, screaming for help. From above, a huge hand wrapped around her neck and lifted her off the ground. She had not realized the maniac was on the table. She tried to yell, but he was crushing her windpipe, preventing any sound. She saw more people coming through the gate as the crazed man with the flesh falling around him raised her and thrust her face first onto another meat hook. She glanced over to the young people who just walked into her nightmare as her final breath left. They applauded, and the maniac bowed.
Wow. Wow. This is really, really brutal.
That was my Halloween story.
That was awesome. I
It's
thought
really
this
nice.
could be a happy story because of the car and she was driving. I was so happy. She was driving
Yeah.
fast and
She was having a great time driving, I know.
great time, yes. And then,
Poor-
wow, amazingly brutal.
Quite brutal, yes. Yes.
Yeah. It reminds me of that one scene from Interview of a Vampire. I don't know if you have read that.
Yeah,
where
we
there's this girl that is being sucked dry on the stage,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
all the people think it's a theater,
part of the show, yeah.
and they applaud and everything. I can't recall it exactly anymore, but because it's so long that since I read it, but I found it deeply moving because it is shown from her perspective and from the perspective of the theater visitors, and they all cheer because they think it's cool, and she's trying to get help and nobody's helping her.
Yeah.
And it's all vampires on the stage, and ultimately she is doomed from the start, but she's trying very hard to survive and she cannot, and then everybody cheers because she died in a spectacular way, and everybody thought, oh, that was a great performance.
Who kills her, Lestat or Louis, though? I remember the scene.
It's in the stat book as well, actually. Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
but Louis also goes and sees the vampires too, in the interview, because
They're making a TV series about
Can't wait. That's going to be great.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a big fan of Anne Rice, but some of her writing isn't always top notch. But she's written
David,
something
I have a
new with her
question.
son.
There's something nagging on me. Is this like those two are the well, in the beginning there were prep bodies that could be real. I imagine they're real bodies.
Yeah.
But are those two the only victims and the other ones are just visitors, or are they all gonna be victims?
Well, I sort of was imagining that first group applauding and walking out, but whoever came next was probably going to be a victim.
So there is.
I kept seeing this thing of victim, applause, a victim, and him getting the maniac actually getting quite into the whole performance. Yes.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, definitely. That he's
So-
selective, but he'll take
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
It's
he
part of the
needs
performance.
applause, maybe he needs applause for his
Yeah,
show. And then
yeah.
Yeah.
victims, applause. Oh, I like it.
Yeah, no, it was nice. It was lovely. Yes, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre came to mind.
Definitely.
Meat hooks. Yes.
I thought of those fantasy holiday parks where you get in, you get pushed through.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Some of them are realistic, some of them aren't. And I thought, well, this is more a realistic theme, and being pushed through, that could be very intense.
Well, we've been to a couple, and we actually have been to one that had it was a corridor, and it had these massive plastic blown up things. So as you're trying to get through, you're getting squashed more and more, and at the end, it literally pushed you out. And I remember the one we went to in New York. I always thought of I imagined how easy it would be to do a murder.
Yeah.
in there. But yeah, the idea of people applauding, it's
Yeah.
Romans and Christians and lions and so on. We've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
Daniel,
great.
it's a
All right.
tough act to follow.
It is rather. Well, hopefully this one, as I said, is finished, or at least I think it's finished. It certainly wrote it. I had a little bit of difficulty writing it, but anyway, the attack was over in seconds. Siobhan looked up from the small screen in front of her almost immediately afterwards and surveyed the small group of teenagers she'd been indoctrinating for the last several weeks. The glazed expressions that looked back at her told her that their capacity to tolerate yet more strategic training videos was at an all-time low. She would have to take a different approach. Jonathan, Claudio, Veronica. Siobhan pointed at each of them with a bony index finger as she spoke their names. Please stand up. The 3 students dutifully stood and awaited their instructions. The challenge that I will set you all is this. Siobhan marched purposefully down the aisle of chairs, and she could feel the students beginning to take more interest almost immediately, now that their eyes were no longer focused on the large screen behind her. You 3 will attempt to make your way to the utility tower. If you succeed within the next hour, it will be triple rations for you for the remaining week. Now go. All 3 of the standing students wasted no time. The utility tower was across the other side of the encampment, which was approximately 20 miles away. They immediately rushed out of the room. Siobhan watched them depart, waited approximately half a minute before addressing the remaining students. The rest of you will attempt to stop them from reaching their destination. Do we get extra rations if we do? Asked Julia, a red-haired girl who had a smile like an angel. If you fail to stop them, corrected Siobhan firmly, then you will only receive half rations for the rest of the week.
Mm-hmm.
The entire group of students immediately scrambled to the exit with such vehemence that they left their overturned chairs, and some of them even fell over in their rush to leave the room and pursue their 3 colleagues. Siobhan walked slowly to the window and watched as the 3 students, now pursued by the entire class, screaming wildly behind them, ran across the training green towards the tower in the distance. The girl had paused briefly when she'd heard their classmates pursue her. She stumbled once, then fell to her knees. Within seconds, the now almost rabid pack of fists and feet trampled her down, and she did not get up again once they had passed over her. The other 2 boys made a valiant effort to reach the edge of the courtyard, and one of them nearly made it to the gate before the braying herd managed to reach him. His screams of agony choked away as they fell on top of him and silenced him almost immediately. A man in uniform walked up behind Siobhan, his boots making the all-familiar sound of a military man. Slow and steady and with purpose. Are they ready? Oh, yes, replied Siobhan as she turned to meet his gaze squarely. Now they are ready for anything.
They're ready for anything. Games or
Oh, wasn't it just, yes, Battle Royale.
Battle Royale.
It felt like Harry Potter meets the Hunger Games. Something
Yeah.
like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's training the killers. Oh, that's a bit
Clever one. Clever one.
Yes. I was
That
even
poor-
going to repeat the opening line again, but I thought, no, I'll just describe the instant demise.
I have to look for the cat. He's doing something funny. I'll be.
Oh, yeah, I can hear him in the background before.
Yeah, he knocked something over, didn't he? Because I turned around going, what's in the room with me?
They are unruly at the moment.
No, that's all right. They're allowed to be.
But yeah, that was fun, guys. And again, yeah, I love the fact that, yeah, this is stuff that we know that we have within us, but it's just a really good way to remind us. Hiya.
Yep.
He's a little play cat. He did knock over a table. This
Table.
tiny one. He's
Oh,
so
okay.
What table did he knock over?
The Tapetentable.
Ooh, okay.
Good job.
He has
Tough
that
little thing.
power.
He's
Well,
got
everybody-
beautiful eyes.
I hope you had a great evening with us. If
did.
you're not watching that later at some point.
Superb.
Um,
Yes.
Thank you.
We will
Thanks.
see each other about in 2 weeks again.
Yep.
And Daniel, David, if you stay inside the studio, we can have a little after chat.
Exactly. Yep.
Yes, I love that. I love that.
Okay.
Just gotta bring out the cat. He's very wild at the moment. I'll move over to Torsten. Is that okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
In a
dear
minute.
YouTube crowd, have a good evening. Have a good week. Talk to you in 2
Yes.
weeks.
Bye, crowd.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, and give us feedback.
Give us
Yes.
feedback.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, please.